The FOMC meeting, here is a clear-cut explanation of not what is going to happen, but how you should react. Let's go. All right, so FOMC, can the Fed avoid spooking markets as it readies a taper? So when a tapering measure comes along, then historically speaking, that really meant the market of all kinds, cryptos, your stocks and your equities, they all just went down, with obviously the interest rates that climb up as well. And real estate, it all just follows, and it's a triple threat. So we call it the taper tantrums. So what happened in 2013 was Chairman Ben Bernanke announced that the Fed would, at some future, they reduce the volume of its bond purchases. In the period since 2008 financial crisis, the Fed had tripled the size of its balance sheet from around 1 trillion to about 3 trillion by purchasing almost 2 trillion in treasury bonds and other financial assets which propped up the market. Investors had come to depend on ongoing massive support for asset prices through its ongoing purchases, kind of like what's happening right now. And we call this the taper tantrum. So when there's tapering, everything's basically gonna go down, interest rates are gonna go up. Okay, so we get that everyone's worried about taper tantrum. Now, there was some sort of a tapering measure that they announced back in May, but clearly just looking at S&P 500, nothing really bad happened in May, and we've just seen a strong and continual climb since then as well. So what happened was back in June, they stopped the stimulus checks. And the reason for that was because a lot of people were relying on these stimulus checks, right? From the beginning of COVID, because people lost jobs, they gave out these stimulus checks.
Where could they spend the stimulus checks when they're locked down?
Obviously, they can't go overseas either because of the border restrictions as well. So what they did was they then invested into different asset classes. As we all know, tech stocks have done really, really well. Things like Tesla, even in cars, secondhand cars have gone up in price, and people have begun to rely on these investment-based incomes. And for that reason, Americans are not wanting to go back to work at all because they're relying on this income that has come from this massive spike in asset prices, which has then allowed people to live off of that instead of going to work. And therefore, right now, there are record numbers of people quitting their jobs, and there's a massive, massive labor shortage. And with the labor shortage, companies are having to pay more to hire good people to work for them, and that's driving up the prices of goods, which then increases the inflation, and CPI is just going crazy. Right now, there's no doubt that there's a massive labor shortage in the United States. And you know what? You might look at the word tapering, and that's all the word that you're gonna keep an eye on, just so that you are ready for the drop in the market. But I'd say America's greater attention right now is not necessarily on the tapering measures itself, but on bringing the labor market back to how it should be right now. So that may come at an interest hike, and that's how the tapering effect is gonna work itself out, so that it actually solves the core issue, so that the Feds can actually bring the United States citizens back into work. Not to mention, we've all gotten pretty damn lazy working from home and stuff, and working from home really means we're not really working that hard anyway. So when the meeting does happen, don't just look out for that one single word that you think is gonna crash the market, but really keep an eye on how the market is going to behave based on these measures coming in. In my opinion, be told, I'd expect that it's still not too late to re-enter the market once you've identified this employment issue and these labor issues being resolved in the United States, for you to then find another opportunity to re-enter the market should the tapering then affect this market so terribly, like the taper tantrum that we have seen before. Just make sure you keep an eye on it. Even if you don't care about it, I think it's a good piece of knowledge to have. FOMC meetings, they're a big deal. Listen to the Feds and what their direction is, because it does impact the market quite significantly. Of course, there's another argument in that tapering measures that were announced, taper tantrum isn't really working because it has been announced in May. So the only thing that you should really be doing is hodl. But again, it's really good to have healthy amounts of skepticism, have a little bit of cautious, and err on the side of caution in everything that we do. So thanks so much for tuning in today's video. If you haven't done so, make sure you like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.